Hey folks, thanks for checking out my show. I really, really appreciate it because I work hard on this and I love doing my podcast. And if I was just talking into a piece of plastic and no one was listening, you know, I'd probably still do it because this is therapeutic. I sit down, I'm in my front study. Picture it. I have like a smoking jacket on, my pipe. I talk in a creepy voice like this for some reason, maybe a little bourbon. All right. Whatever. No. So thank you for checking out the show. Really appreciate it. Check out the website, waitwhatif.com. I do a lot of stuff on there. Why? I have no idea. I need a crew. How do I get a crew? Can I get a crew? Can I get people? Because I go on, you know, I listen to other podcasts and stuff and they're doing all sorts of interesting things. And I wonder, how the hell are they doing this? It's just me. I need a crew. I need someone that can almost like when we do the live events, when we do the camera work and all that stuff, I need someone like that all the time. So if you want to be a crew and you live in North Carolina, send me a line. Send me an email. Oh, wait, what? New email. Kevin@waitwhatif.com. That's right. It's now Kevin@waitwhatif.com. Send me a note there. You can reach me at any time. Go to the website. I review products. That's one of the big things people don't realize. I go in there and I try out different things. You know, people they ask me about supplements. I'm a PA, all right? So I'm in medicine. I treat patients. I'm not a doctor. Don't get me confused. I went to school a year and a half less than doctors. So I'm not at that point, but I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm talking about. I treat people with medicine. It's what I do. I'm a medical provider. So I give these supplements a real thorough exam, I guess. I try them on myself, tell you what happens to me when I take them. And then I put links on where you can get it and whether I think you should get it or not. So go to waitwhatif.com and you'll see, I think I changed the name recently and it used to be Primal Marketplace, but then I realized that's Mark Sisson's gig, the whole Primal thing. So I changed it to something else, but go to the website, you'll see. Sign up for my email. I also have an email on there. I want you to sign up for it. So if in today's day with Twitter knocking people off and YouTube knocking people off and just everything's going crazy, I need a way to reach my guests. And the only way to do that, I'm not going to send you crap every day. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to sell your crap. I just want to have a chance if I, for whatever reason, can't reach out to people anymore. I want to be able to at least reach you. So I think that's it. I don't really have a lot to talk about today. Maryam Henein, she is a documentarian. She talks about bees. Very interesting woman. She produces CBD oil, which is, I'm going to say it wrong, cannabidiol, whatever. It's from marijuana or it's from hemp. It's not psychoactive. It's supposed to have all these healing properties and all this cool stuff. She's very, very, very passionate, very knowledgeable about it. And she also, I guess you would call her a journalist / ecologist. She's very much into the studying of why bees are disappearing, which is kind of a fascinating subject in and of itself. So Maryam called. We had a great talk. And without further ado, here she is.
You're listening to the Wait What If podcast.
We're about to blow stuff up.
So first, how do I pronounce your last name? Because I was trying to introduce you. I did a little intro before I called, and I'm sure I was saying it wrong.
So I like to say it's like the word Henein.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I completely butchered it. I didn't say anything like that, but okay. So Maryam Henein. And you have kind of a big resume, so I don't want to, pigeonhole you into one thing or the other. So let's just start off with what seems to be one of your, just by following your tweets and stuff, that seems to be one of your, I don't know if I can label it your passion, maybe you would, but getting the word out about CBD and what it is and what it does for people.
Yes, I would say that as of late,
okay,
I am very committed to telling people about CBD, not only the benefits, but more so the politics, as I have experienced them on the front lines.
Okay,
of this crusade.
Well, let's start off just to give my listeners who probably already know about this, but CBD is, and I might say this wrong, cannabidiol.
Yes.
Okay, cannabidiol, it's cannabis compound that has specific medical benefits but doesn't make people feel high. And it actually, what I read is it can counteract the psychoactive or the psychoactivity of THC. But I also read, and this is the part that I don't quite get, it's less psychoactive than THC. So can this still make you relax? Can this still give you explain.
There's no psychoactive properties at all of CBD. You can extract CBD from marijuana or from industrialized hemp. For all intents and purposes, it's the same plant. But due to the prohibitive, kind of landscape that we're in, it's semantics in a way. It's the way the plant is bred. So CBD, let's say from what I put forth, is from industrialized hemp.
Okay. So let's get right into that part. Where does it stand as far as the legality in the U.S.? Because I had Googled it and I found a place here in North Carolina that seems to be selling it, and it says it's legal, but I don't know. Are they selling the same stuff? What's the legality of it?
Well, it's very interesting because you can find hemp oil on Amazon, and I know vendors that are using PayPal, but I have gone through a lot of hell to bring it forth to people, despite the fact that it's from industrialized hemp. And I, for instance, have been banned permanently from PayPal, even though I do not sell hemp oil on honeycolony.com. I sell it on a sister site, simplytransformative.com. So on one hand, the government has scheduled CBD from marijuana extracts up there with Schedule 1, up there with LSD and heroin.
Wow.
Stating that it has no medicinal properties, even though that's not true. And then on the other hand, the government has patented cannabinoids and are bringing an FDA-approved fake CBD to market. So the World Health Organization has put out preliminary reports on the safety of CBD and the benefits. There's myriad articles out there that show the benefits. The mainstream would like for you to believe now that the only approved benefit is for epilepsy, but that just so happens to be because that is the government approved fake CBD that is about to come to market. Also, there's another fake THC called dronabinol, which is scheduled as a 2 because it's a prescription, but yet we have marijuana up there as a Schedule 1. I think it's indisputable the benefits of the cannabis plant. From my perspective as someone who doesn't drink alcohol, the hypocrisy when you think of alcohol as, for me, a very low level vibe, also full of sugar, inflammatory, aging, has wrecked homes. And, Morgan Spurlock did a special on dispensaries way back. And, he's like, you don't see angry people in a dispensary like you do at a bar.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of hypocrisy, and I don't know why I have been through the ringer I make an excellent formula, and I have people calling me from literally all over the world, Norway, Greece, UK, Australia, Canada, asking for my formula because there's also, I say that everyone and their mama is making CBD now. And there's a lot of, I would venture to say that the ones on Amazon, for instance, are CBD isolates, which means that they're likely from China or India. And what's interesting about the cannabis plant is that it's a bioaccumulator. They actually literally use the cannabis plant in Chernobyl to clean the soil. So it pulls up what's in the soil. So you definitely want an organic brand, or else you're imbibing heavy metals and pesticides.
Now, it does the legality stem from which, like, because from what I heard, and I don't understand this, that marijuana and hemp are very different, yet they're put in the same category. So is it legal if it comes from hemp, but illegal if it comes from marijuana, or what's the deal with that?
Yes, but it also depends on whom you ask. The Hemp Association would argue that under the 2014 Farm Bill, that you can purchase industrialized hemp from stem and stalk legally. But if you were to ask someone from the DEA, they would say otherwise. And also, I mean, there's a law firm that is challenging, and the Hemp Association that is challenging this Schedule 1 act, putting it as a Schedule 1. They're challenging the it doesn't really have much merit. This is hemp. The reason why CBD purveyors are being prosecuted or feeling, when I say that, for me, what happened was I'm selling online. I have had merchant processor shutdowns. So all the mainstream processors like a PayPal, a Square, Stripe, QuickBooks, all of them, until you have to find a high risk merchant processor, even though this is, I would argue, not really high risk, but it falls under that category, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And what's bizarre about it is, so it's Schedule 1. It's on the same level as cocaine. And actually, I don't think cocaine's Schedule 1, is it? Because that's got.
I don't think so.
No.
I think it's a.
Oh, well, we'll say heroin.
LSD and heroin.
And it doesn't get you high. It doesn't do anything. Has it killed anyone? Has anyone tried to do something with it and it's causing injuries or death? So
it's very safe.
It's guilt by association then.
Or it's because it's effective and the pharmaceuticals want to corner this $1 billion market.
Yeah.
I mean, you can make these arguments across marijuana, just overall marijuana, but in this specific compound, the fact that it's non-psychoactive, it's a plant compound. So you have to wonder, but I can tell you after these past 5 months that I've been speaking to customers nonstop, I'm having customers that are getting off of opiates, that are treating bladder cancer, that are treating fibromyalgia. Am I risking going to jail by mentioning ailments? The last merchant processor that I had sent in December updated website compliances where, on behalf of the FDA, they were asking to go into my testimonials and scrub words like cancer. So it's one thing, we know in health and wellness we cannot make claims or else we will feel the wrath of the FDA. But
Sure.
It's something else when you have to go and, as a believer in the First Amendment, as an investigative journalist, to go in and scrub words. It just doesn't bode well with me. And then also the request was to remove links to other sites because the FDA deems other research bias. The FDA gets to dictate what is bias. That's just very ironic considering they're frolicking with big pharma.
Yeah. Yeah, because I don't remember the site, but it linked through from your site, basically a list of all the studies. So if you look at one of the things that it's claimed to do, inflammation, it'll click through, and then there was like 30 studies. And then I'm a scientist, so I know, what I'm looking at, what I'm reading. These were legit studies. They were through the National Institute of Health's website. They're actual peer-reviewed studies. So the data's there. That's bizarre. And I suppose initially I understand. Like initially, what the FDA was there to do was to keep someone from selling snake oil. To make sure that there was some sort of controls put on what people are, I guess, taking to cure diseases. But in the same breath, I can go and take any supplement I want that may not do anything and spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on that. Like Chris Bell, I don't know if you saw Bigger, Stronger, Faster, but on that documentary, and this is a shout out to him. I just had him on last week. That's why I'm thinking of it. But he made his own, quote, proprietary blend of some sort of nutraceuticals. Like he was just putting stuff together. Nothing was bad for you, but he just put, he made his little pills, slapped a label on it, and he was good to go.
Sure.
He was good to go. There was no legality. It was a supplement. The FDA had nothing to say with that. So basically what I'm saying is I don't understand. Well, I guess you kind of answered it.
It's very, you're saying you don't understand. For me, it's very clear. If you look at the FDA, there's been more than 100,000 reports of serious injuries related to adverse drug events.
Sure.
I'm just writing an article now about the faux faith of science when it comes to modern science, specifically in clinical trials, and the greed and the conflict of interest and the pretty arguable collusion that occurs. So when you're looking at CBD, it's very simple to me. This actually works. If it's a crappy CBD out there, they're not so worried. I know that in my case, and I'm not just touting my own horn, but our formulator and what we've created, because you also have to think, other than the fact that it's bioaccumulating and you want an organic, you have to also look at the extraction methods.
Sure.
People are using butane or hexane. It's kind of counterintuitive. You're taking this to feel better. You don't want to be taking solvents, residuals. Then you also have to think that it degrades 80 to 90% by the time it gets into the liver. So now, there's all this craze like, oh, we're going to put CBD in your kombucha. It's not going to get to your liver. It's not going to get to you. It's just marketing BS.
Yeah.
So ours is liposomal. Unless it's rectal or liposomal, it's not. You're not going to get the full effects. And people are doing their homework. 1 in every 2 people today has a chronic illness, and this is, like you saw, there's studies. Inflammation is arguably kind of the crux. Mitochondrial dysfunction is the crux of all disease. So it's considered an antioxidant, a neuroprotectant, anti-inflammatory, this beautiful plant, and all these terpenes and cannabinoids. And it's a threat. It's simple to me.
Do you think it gets deep into the because it almost makes you feel like it's going down the conspiracy theory area. But because I was just talking to my friend today, we were talking about diet. We talk a lot about diet on this show. We talk a lot about kind of maximizing your body's potential, and it all comes down to what you put in your body. It all comes down to what you're eating.
Absolutely.
And we were talking, and I was thinking, or we were talking about how, in a way, and again, this goes down that conspiracy theory rabbit hole, but in a way, the medical system doesn't do well when you're healthy. It just, obviously, the big pharmacological companies aren't making money if you're not taking your diabetes medicines. But I can take a patient and cut their carbohydrates down to maybe 10% and watch their blood values, their blood sugar go down to normal. And that's free. It actually will save them some money in the long run. And that's considered on the outskirts. That's considered, you're treading the water of making medical recommendations outside the standard of care.
Well, my mission is to empower people to be their own best health advocate. I've been run down by a Ford Explorer and dragged 50 feet. I've been exposed to pesticides on 3 different occasions. I've reversed my lupus and fibromyalgia. And I speak from many different perspectives that come together, not only as a journalist, not only as someone who's studied the food supply for 10 years, not only someone as a Canadian who's been through the ringer of Western medicine. So I think we have to be very careful, especially as a journalist, to be pegged a conspiracy theorist when we can assassinate people's careers.
Right.
To me, it's very clear. It's sick care. There's no conspiracy. Just do your homework. It's all there. There's, arguably 80 doctors have committed suicide because their mission is also to empower you to be your own best health advocate. But at the same time, there's this burgeoning functional medicine community, and there's a lot of amazing people on the forefront of health, whether they're studying the biome or looking at the link between gut and brain health. And the word is getting out there.
It is.
In, again, the case of CBD, I can just put it out there a fact. The main company that's bringing this fake CBD to market is called GW Pharma. They are partnered with Bayer Crop Science. Bayer is a big part of my movie, Vanishing, of the bees. Okay. Just putting it out there. So, when my company, as a startup, as an entrepreneur who's from scratch, a lot of sacrifice, making a whopping $11,000 a year. And I'm brilliant. I'm a talented person. But the sacrifice, and we were going from $200,000 in sales to $1 million. It's a good problem. And then in January of 2017, we were shut down. And then we were shut down. And then we were shut down. And then we were shut down. So every time that happens, a small business can't make any money because they don't have a processor. Yeah. They have customers and they have amazing products. And so the system is impeding their growth and disabling. That's, again, just a fact of what's happened. Then we found a processor and they defrauded us $20,000. For me, an environmentalist called the Erin Brockovich of the bee world to be banned from PayPal when I don't even sell on Honey Colony. That's how you treat do-gooders. That's how you treat activists that don't worship dollars. So I can just express my experience of what has factually happened. I think I'm a very sane person, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. This is my experience and what I've studied. It's indisputable today.
Sure. Let's back up for a quick second, because I'm interested in, you said that it put your lupus in, I would say in medicine, just because, I work in medicine, it's in remission.
Sure.
You said it's cured?
Well, the ANA levels after 6 years of doing everything under the sun are almost normal. The ANA levels were 640. And I think the range is from 0 to 40 or 0 to 60.
Yeah, I don't remember offhand, but that's close. Now, was this strictly through use of CBD, or did you incorporate diet and lifestyle? Okay.
It was definitely diet. I also believe food is thy medicine, and it's, when working with clients, it's the thing they seem to resist the most that is the easiest thing that they can do for them. So I was on a pretty good diet for many years, had not eaten gluten or sugar. I did let go of the grains altogether, and I also did and adopt a ketogenic diet, which really helped me. I think in my case, because you can have 5 people who have lupus and one got because they have Epstein-Barr, or another one. In my case, I was literally exposed to chemicals in Central America that are arguably illegal here, and just like a honeybee has become an environmental indicator with multiple chemical sensitivity, I still have that. But the one thing that I feel for me helped, aside from glutathione treatment, CBD, molecular hydrogen, eating well, is detoxing via coffee enemas. So despite doing, I was doing all the right things, I really saw my ANA levels go down. And then I also I studied metabolomics and got a certificate, and did a test this summer and then the summer prior. And that's when you look at the 5,000 metabolites in the body. And studying metabolomics, you really look at disease as one not getting the proper nutrients because you have some type of dysbiosis or leaky gut, or you're eating crap. It's not getting to you. Or two, you are getting exposed to more toxins than your body has the ability to heal.
Sure.
And as you know, there's all these different co-factors that go into making something work. And if one portion is broken, then it unravels and creates a domino effect.
It's remarkable to me, as I'm going through a journey of nutrition and everything, and coming from a trained medical provider, I still, I'm learning every day. And what's amazing to me is how, when you first look at how simple it is to just, just start changing what you're putting in your body. It's a very, very, very difficult thing to convince someone to do. It's extremely difficult. I would say, and with my approach with patients, I am hands-on, one-on-one, very available. The way my clinic works is they don't have to worry about paying a copay. They don't have to worry about any of that. They just come and see me. And I may have a 5% success rate. And I think that's pretty good when it comes to weight loss and keeping weight off. But it's truly a very difficult thing to get someone to say, I need to start from the ground up. Basically, I need to rebuild my foundation. The other thing too is when you go that natural route, and don't get me wrong, if I'm flatlining, hit me with all the Western medicine you want, right? But when you're talking about something chronic, like chronic arthritis or widespread pain, any of these chronic, slow, insidious diseases, if you start with just your diet or start with even meditation, something like that, you don't see the results right away. We're a society that likes to get fixed, and it takes time. It takes time to rebuild your metabolism, to heal your body through your foods.
It also takes time. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of a coughing attack.
It's okay.
It also takes time to rebuild the immune system. Let's say in my case, which is not novel, I'm 45. Excuse me. And my system has been obliterated by growing up taking antibiotics.
Exactly.
You lose some of those strains. And I see that with a lot of clients that I work with. It's a pattern you see over and over again. So let's say growing up taking antibiotics, I haven't taken them in 6 years now. So because of silver, which is a natural antibiotic. And for me, in my life, that is miraculous. I used to having lupus, it would focus on my bladder, and I would get urinary tract infections. I also had Epstein-Barr. I mean, I'll always have it. And it would attack my bladder, and it's just a vicious cycle of taking these antibiotics. And I have stayed clear because of silver. And it also penetrates the biofilm. A lot of people have biofilms. I mean, our pipes, I interviewed Erin Brockovich, and you're seeing in the pipes themselves, because of the crap they're putting in there, that the pathogens are hiding behind these biofilm. And so it helps break that up as well, because we're just making these bugs stronger.
Oh yeah, absolutely. People are conditioned to, if they have an upper respiratory infection or something like that, to get an antibiotic. We're just conditioned, and through no fault of their own, because they feel bad. You feel sick. If you have an ear infection or a sinus infection or a bladder infection, you feel really, really sick. And I write, or someone writes a prescription, and then in the next few days to maybe a week, you feel better. So I understand them wanting to come in and get those antibiotics, but as I have two crusades in life, and one is to limit antibiotic use, the other is to reduce obesity. But antibiotic use is a huge thing.
And they're linked anyway, right?
Yeah, they can be.
You get obese. Yes.
I've heard about mitochondrial damage you can get through through heavy antibiotic use. I haven't read up on it. I just remember hearing about it. So I don't want to talk out of school.
Well, there's also devastating side effects that could be irreversible. I've been studying and writing about the antibiotic resistance epidemic, which is a human colony collapse, the abuse and misuse. And again, after taking years and years worth of antibiotics, for me, 6 years without is, again, miraculous, and it's because of silver. So right now, I am someone who's very sensitive to, as someone who has multiple chemical sensitivity, and also to mold. I went to the Korean spa in Los Angeles, and the AC was blowing. Within half an hour of getting back home, I got really sick, and I've been fighting and having a fever for 7 days, which has never happened that I felt a flu this aggressive. I went on Facebook and reached out, and I did feel like I was dying. This fever would not abate, and I had so many people, Maryam, you're so stubborn, go get a Z-Pack, go get antibiotics. No, and I'm like, hey, I'm not a Jehovah's Witness, but I'm not doing the antibiotics. I believe in my 400 ppm super chelated silver that I can't keep on the shelves because it's personally saved me. And so it's easy to go back and say, take antibiotics, be well in a couple of days or even hours, you could feel better. But to give back the trust to the body, because the body is an amazing thing. And this is coming from a perspective being told your body is attacking itself, you have an autoimmune condition, and having to delete that self-limiting belief.
I tell a lot of folks, I say, if you're going to use an antibiotic, use it to keep yourself out of the hospital. If you think your next move is going to be admitted to the hospital, then by all means, let's try to prevent that from happening. But yeah, people have survived thousands of years by letting their body's immune system work. Sometimes, and being in medicine, I've seen times where you need them, but not as widespread. I mean, they are so overly prescribed. And as a provider, I take a lot of that responsibility. But I think personally, I think the medical community is a small part of the problem. I mean, it is dumped everywhere. Antibiotics are in everything. I once saw a list, and it blew my mind. It was like in mattresses and pillows and soap, and I mean, it's everywhere.
Are you talking about triclosan? Are you talking about triclosan?
I don't remember. I just remember seeing the list, and who knows where I saw it, but I just remember seeing the list of things that contain antibiotics, and it was pretty much everything. I mean, they use it everywhere.
In some countries, many countries, Greece, where I live part of the year, Nicaragua, you walk into the pharmacy and you self-medicate. Antibiotics, and that just adds to the problem.
That's insane.
This lack of education.
Yeah. Hey, so I have a question, but it might be too complicated, so we might have to break it up a little bit. But I read an article on your site that talked about a parallel between, and you kind of mentioned it a little bit, between colony collapse of bees and this colony collapse of humans. Let's first talk about the bees and then maybe how their situation correlates with the current human condition. So I personally have heard or I've seen, just through the news and whatever on Twitter, that bees are disappearing. A lot of people have heard that. A, how big of a problem is it at this point? And B, maybe this is being too superficial on it, but what is causing it?
Well, the fact that it's been a decade since colony collapse disorder was first reported on, and that we don't have a massive understanding on a general level, given that honeybees pollinate 1 in every 3 bites of the food that we eat, and the fact that we're still losing 40% of hives for the past decade. And so people will think, oh, well, it can't be that bad. We still got the bees around.
Right.
Well, let us understand that in a healthy hive of about 50,000, what commercial beekeepers will do is they will split the hive. So they put a fake or a artificially raised queen, and they introduce her to the hive. And now they can take one hive and turn it into 4. This is not sustainable.
Okay.
And these bees do not recognize this artificially raised queen in many times, and they kick her out, and the hive becomes queenless. Anyway, that's getting a little complicated.
Mm-hmm.
So the point is that the beekeepers are working nonstop in an unsustainable landscape and overworking the bees and building up the numbers. But the fact that it's been 10 years and that these systemic pesticides, which are at the root, which become part of the plant, have become likened to DDT. Now, 50 years ago, Rachel Carson, in her book Silent Spring, went through great lengths to bring DDT and to have it banned. And she was actually even targeted for being responsible for increasing levels of malaria, as if you really need DDT's the only combatant to malaria. Yeah. Nonsense. But so here we are looking at this poison. Systemic pesticides are the most popular pesticides in the entire world, not to be confused with the most popular herbicide, Roundup, and are all over the world, and now are not only killing bees, but all of our pollinators, and have actually made it into the waterways and are fucking up the coral reef and aquatic life.
So to back it up a little bit, the systemic pesticides, meaning the widespread use of them in industrial agriculture.
It's a specific type of systemic pesticide, a neonicotinoid. It's a nicotine-based neurotoxin under the guise that back when we were spraying organophosphates, that those were more dangerous, but that these are less dangerous, but in fact they're more insidious. When you realize that their metabolites, it takes about 18 years to degrade into the soil and are also effing up worms, then you realize that the metabolites are more dangerous than the parent compounds. These systemic pesticides, my message 10 years later is that we are the bees. We are the ones slowly being poisoned in an increasingly toxic world. Again, may think that sounds very conspiratorial. I can be called a zealot. But when you study what's in the earth and what's in the air and what's in the food and what's in the water, and now more and more functional medicine doctors are recognizing chemical body burden. When you have babies that are born with Roundup coursing through their veins, you have to wonder what the fuck is happening. Is it possible? Are we okay to swear on
the
show?
Yeah. This is, you're fine.
Okay. So that is my message. We are very much like the bees, and we should care about them because they feed us. I tell people, my movie, if you like to eat, you should care about colony collapse disorder and the honeybees. And yes, there's many, many variables, and everything is connected, and it would be arrogant not to consider that. But at the root is the poisoning of our food supply. And it's very sad that you basically have to pay more money not to be poisoned.
So they, to go back a little bit, they're finding Roundup in the blood, in infant blood?
Yes, they're finding it in breast milk and in our blood. Roundup. Yes, Roundup is a very, very damaging to the gut. And we could argue that we're living with a broken brain epidemic. If you follow Mark Hyman, he did his docuseries, and the gut and the brain are start from the same cell and have a connection, and that we're seeing. We can also argue, or I'll argue, that people are getting dumber by the day, and that these toxins have been shown to rob us of IQ points. It's not just me saying, using alliteration. It's people are getting dumber by the day. The cognitive skills, and having had lupus and fibro and have had brain fog myself, where my brain, and even this flu, where you can see that you're an intelligent person, but you somehow do not have all your knowledge.
Sure.
It's not accessible to you.
When I was on the standard American diet, and this is, I mean, it's anecdotal, but it's you hear the story over and over again. I would crash. I mean, I had what I called sleep attacks. For a while, I thought I had narcolepsy. Yeah, because I was like, I would be like, man, I can't drive right now. I have to close my eyes. And then when I got really, actually, I went paleo last year, which is kind of late. I mean, I'm 40. But last year, me and my wife went paleo in January. We did it starting last year, and almost it took a little while. I want to say it took about 3 months, and I was like, hey, do you know what? I'm not napping. I'm not falling asleep anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm working all day and into the night. And then what really changed it around, because I used to box and jujitsu, and I mean, my brain. I was in the Iraq 3 times. My brain's been rattled a few times, and I started showing signs of like. Just that, I guess my age was, I mean, I wouldn't call myself old, but, old enough that the mileage was starting to show up. And so I had heard, I can't remember the guy's name now. He was just on Rob Wolf's podcast, and he may have been on Joe Rogan's, where he was a Green Beret, and he had a lot of traumatic brain injury, and he went on a ketogenic approach, and the anti-inflammatory effect of that ketogenic diet, reduced anxiety, reduced any depression that he had, reduced any sort of concentration issues, made he could walk again. So hearing that, I said, well, let's try it. And I went ketogenic.
Yeah.
I'm almost on my 3rd month, and I can work, and I do a lot. I mean, with this podcast, and we're working on a documentary, we're doing all different things. Plus I run a clinic. Plus I have 2 kids and a wife.
Wow.
And I wake up every day, and I don't feel tired. I mean, I should. Yeah. I feel like I was 20 again. Well, sort of. I mean, but I'm not tired. And all it took was just pushing away the way we do things, and using diet, using nature to
absolutely
make yourself feel better.
And the way we arguably is a preferable way to burn fuel.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, I mean, it also helps. Ketosis can help with diabetes, can help with
absolutely.
epilepsy,
yeah,
as well, definitely with inflammation. And I argue that if I could, I'd put a chip in my brain like right now just to get smarter.
Yeah.
And at least taking nootropics or following a ketogenic diet, and seeing what it's done to my brain cognitive skills, I'm all for it. And basically avoiding those carbs. Like, I haven't eaten a banana in a year and 6 months.
Wow.
And I know that a lot of my friends would think that's, they call me a food Nazi. I call myself a food Nazi, but I enjoy the way I eat. Yeah. I've almost died. This is my temple, and I want to, and food is sacred. I want to put nutritious, real fuel inside of me, and I don't miss now the grains personally.
Right.
And I think it healed my tummy a lot, having, again, referencing all those antibiotics and the healing that has to happen from leaky gut, for instance. Because no matter what, even if you don't feel the effects of gluten, there's people who have celiac that silently suffer, and no matter what, it's going to compromise those tight junctions. And you also have to think about the bread. It has bromide in it. It was replaced. The iodine arguably has definitely Roundup, which is also effing you up. And one slice of bread is equivalent to 2 tablespoons of sugar. Yeah. Why? Yeah. It's not worth it.
Yeah, and the wheat they're using nowadays isn't even the same wheat that our grandparents used. I couldn't tell you the type. Something about like heirloom wheat versus, but yeah, everything. And it's hard if you want to break out of that system. It's extremely hard to do so if you don't have the tools, because just lecturing patients, or not lecturing, I usually have a discussion with patients, but you know what I mean, about the right choices, the right foods to get. Most people haven't a clue. They think they're eating healthy because they're having baked potato chips instead of fried potato chips, or they're cooking with canola oil.
Oh my!
I've been studying a lot about these polyunsaturated fatty acids and how people have been told to use vegetable-based oils. A vegetable oil like canola, you're only getting a snapshot of what that oil is. They say, okay, this is full of omega-3 fatty acids. Those are good for you. They're heart healthy. But to get that canola oil into that bottle, it took hexane, you had mentioned earlier. Hexane is a derivative, I think, of gasoline, right? To remove the oils, high temperatures, and then you take those omega-3s that are, yes, they're there present in, I don't know, what's it called, a canola plant? Oh, whatever. But they're present there in its natural form. But once once it hits that, is it made out of corn? Canola oil?
I think it's maize,
Oh.
MAICE.
Yeah.
I think it's a subset of corn.
I didn't know that.
I think so.
But when you hit it with those high
Canola.
temperatures and those chemicals, those PUFAs, they go from this natural. There's a natural beauty in molecular structure. There just is. When you look at it,
It's from rapeseed. Sorry, let's just clarify. Rapeseed.
Rapeseed oil. Okay.
Sorry.
So when you look at a molecule that is natural, it actually has a beautiful shape to it. You can see structure, and you can see almost the golden ratio, and it just looks. But after it gets put through this chemical process, it gets kinked and craggly, and that's what people are consuming. And and they're full of free radicals, and when they oxidize in your bloodstream or oxidize in your pan while you're frying with it, it raises havoc. In fact, I used to say the most dangerous thing you could put in your body is excess sugar, or any sugar for all I care. But I'm starting to lean towards these man-made vegetable oils, and then you add sugar on top of that. It's just it's horrible. And people have no idea. They have no clue. And it's frustrating because when I sit with them, I just want them to know. And you almost feel like you're I don't know, you're tackling Mount Everest, You go in and
they have to be, for my consults, I say, are you willing to make the decisions, or else you're just wasting your time. You're wasting my time. If you, and again, so many people, I had my neighbor who was diagnosed with cancer. I personally am not down with the chemo and the radiation, the poisons. She did that, very typically got an infection in her stomach. It was stomach cancer. Of course, was put on antibiotics. And when I saw her, she was super frail, but her tummy was ginormous. Mm-hmm. And she's French. And I'm like, are you eating the baguettes? And she's like, of course, I'm French. I'm like, okay, well, I can't help you. Sorry. If you were not willing to give up your bread and look at you at the inflammation that it's causing, then so be it. And you walk around now. If I go to the airport, it's just everybody is look like puffy, inflamed, and it's normal. Just like people back in Montreal, where I come from, will say, "Well, yeah, I'm getting achy because it's normal. I'm getting older." No, baby, I'm like wine. Despite everything that's happened to me, I am only getting better, and so it's not too late ever.
No,
40 is young.
It isn't too late. It's reaching, and I think people need that come to Jesus moment, we call it, where you say, this is what, now I have to do something. And it's a free country. And, I love the whole libertarian live free or die. And if you want to live that way, that's fine. But if you want, I don't know anyone who doesn't want to feel better. And that's where, and maybe that's a good in, if you just want to feel better. And the other thing too, is I'm not selling something. I'm selling nature. I'm selling just look at evolution. Look at the last 200,000 years of human history. And there's a reason why we can eat the foods we eat and we tolerate the foods we tolerate, because that's how we evolved to survive to today. And then we throw all this crap in our system. And now look at it. I was talking to a patient today, and I said, things happen slowly and they become the norm, and then we just sort of accept it.
It's called the overturn window, when the unacceptable becomes acceptable over time.
Yeah. Okay. I never actually heard that before, but that's interesting. So it's like the idea of, there's children with type 2 diabetes. Now, that should be a fire alarm across the nation. That should be, top story. Holy shit, children younger than 10 years old are getting that. It's akin in my brain. That's akin to saying, coming out and saying, oh, we're starting to see Alzheimer's in children.
Yes, we are though.
Unheard of.
Seeing Alzheimer's in teens and young adults, and it's considered a third type diabetes.
Yeah, they call it type 3, or they're looking at this sort of dementia. But that should be setting off alarms across the country. Hey, the program's not working. We never saw children with type 2 diabetes until the last 25 years. Something's wrong and something has to change. Or the system's just going to bankrupt itself, because we're going to have all these people that are sick and disabled. And
well, we are. That's the trajectory. Again, 1 in every 2 people has a chronic illness. We've normalized pathology.
Yeah.
We're normalizing the abnormal. It's not normal to have all this sickness. There is something called sick care. And again, we bring it to the bees, because the bees are responsible for pollinating our food, for waking us up to the right to have a clean food supply. Please, I just want clean food. Go take your poisons elsewhere. And this is on a huge scale. And now we can argue that we have pretty much a defunct environmental protection agency. I was thinking when I was making my film 10 years ago that it was bad back then, and now it's arguably non-existent. And I was just in writing my article about the faux faith of science, a quote from someone at the EPA basically saying scientists at EPA are treated as irrelevant now because they are no longer part of the decision-making process. Betsy Sutherland, former director of EPA's Office of Science and Technology, quote, all environmental decisions come out of Administrator Pruitt's private meetings with industry and agribusiness. And so who is protecting our environment? The bees are ancient creatures they have a message, I say. The question is, will we listen? And here we are 10 years later. My movie is still relevant because, as you know, docs have a shelf life. But my film is still very much alive because bees are still very much dying. And the fact that we don't all know universally that these systemic pesticides are at the root cause of colony collapse disorder, and the amount of chemicals that we douse and entrench and become part of, become part of the actual seed. And, what we're doing to the planet is abhorrible. It's devastating. And unless we take our health into our own hands and be the change we want to see, nothing is going to happen. You cannot take on the system or the monolith. But if I look at the consciousness that has developed since I first started making the film in 2007, and now, the bees are arguably on the forefront of our mind more than ever before, and we have made such headway as far as our consciousness and the movement with food politics, food justice. 20 years ago, there was no you couldn't go to school and study food politics. Now I went and I taught a class 2 years ago in Rome at a place called Gusto Lab, where Americans go there and learn about the culture of food and what has changed. And you have these notions of what might be happening in places like Greece or Italy. Well, the highest rates of obesity in children are Italy and Greece. And what's happening because of the European Union and the policies there are the exact same thing as here in America. You think of Greece, which is an agrarian culture, and the subsidies for similar crops, I was looking at how many chemicals go into a head of broccoli because I had to choose the top 15. There's 15 of safe, like avocado is a pretty safe vegetable or fruit rather to choose if you want to minimize your pesticide. The broccoli, I think, had like 9 different herbicides, fungicides, pesticides that it came in contact with. It's disgusting. What the fuck? I just want a broccoli without any poisons, please.
There's are you an optimist? Do you think that this can change? Or I asked that because I interviewed James Barrett. He's a Nat Geo filmmaker, and he wrote a book about AI, artificial intelligence, and what it's going to mean for our future. And we had this nice conversation, and at the end I said, what do you think the future looks like? Are you an optimist? He said, no, we're done. He blatantly said, we're done. And ever since then, I try to end my interviews with what your outlook is. So, obviously we're not talking about AI, but are you optimistic about the future of food? And is this something that we can reverse? Is it even possible?
Yeah, I don't think it's possible to reverse it. I think it's possible to make a difference in your own life and to vote with your fork and, like I said, be the change that you want to see. I grow my own veggies, have bees, so do whatever, try to walk my talk. And, I long to go back to Greece too. I spent some time in the summer studying blue zones and longevity with two filmmakers who were doing an 8-part series called the Human Longevity Project, and studied and stayed in Ikaria after they left, stayed there a month, and I look forward to going back and befriending some farmers and even there, the encroachment of the Western world. I just kid and I say, I don't think Snickers should be allowed on this island. Sorry, Cheetos, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
shouldn't be allowed. And so the encroachment of the Western world is happening everywhere. We can just do what we can and have community. Just really cherish our food because it's sacred and it nourishes us. And I take what goes into my system very seriously and really appreciate whatever goes inside. I don't know if that would make me not optimistic by my answer, but it's a certain trajectory that we're on. I mean, I think that people are going to wake up and be ushered to their FEMA camps. I think people are not realizing what's really happening. And that might be sound a little dismal.
Well, I mean, some of these things, they don't look, the future doesn't look bright for a lot of them unless something's done. But I have noticed, I mean, if you compare to where we're about the same age, so when we grew up in the 80s and became adults in the 90s, it seems to me there are some things that are changing. Like in my little community, I can think of off the top of my head a couple community gardens. People are more into gardening. People are waking up to those things, and they're realizing that this edible food-like substances that are sitting on the shelves are probably not the safest thing. And you can also see it. People vote with their wallets. And we were at Walmart the other day, and I saw organic grass-fed ghee on the shelf. And I said, holy shit. Wow. When you can find that at Walmart, that means people are buying it. People are understanding.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
So, maybe that's a little optimism in there.
Absolutely. Just like I said, the honeybees are on the forefront more than ever before. Our consciousness has, since 2007, has an inconvenient truth. It's a very exciting time to be alive. I would also this is nothing to do with health and nutrition. I very much enjoyed Altered Carbon on Netflix. Yeah,
that I just started it. Pretty creepy. That's one where the guy, they get put in different bodies, right? And he was hired to find someone's murder.
Yeah, basically it's reincarnation realized is how I'm putting it.
Yeah.
And your consciousness is put in a stack at the base of your neck. But very interesting. I really liked watch. I love sci-fi. I really enjoyed.
Did you watch Electric Dreams on Amazon Prime?
No.
So
is that sci-fi?
Yeah. It's for my sci-fi fans, they're going to be mad at me because I should know the name of this this author. He wrote that quote. I think it's "Do Robots Dream of Electric Sheep" or something.
Philip
like
K. Dick.
Thank you, Philip Dick. So it's based on his stories, and yeah, it's really cool. There's a lot of. It's very similar to Black Mirror in a way, but it kind of its own feel to it. It's good. It's good. I haven't finished it. I watched a couple episodes, and I'm like, yeah, I like this. So definitely check that one out.
Yeah, I binged Altered Carbon. I also liked on FX Legion.
I don't think I know that one.
Legion was good. Yeah, I'm very into sci-fi, but Altered Carbon. I mean, it's 300 years into the future, but you can kind of see this, this trajectory where there's a squeezing out of the middle class, and I mean. When you hear about doctors ending up in rivers, or Mercola wrote about a nutrition consultant that was fined $1,000 for giving dietary. And I know with my customers, they're not regular customers. They're very high maintenance, where they want to know how to take the medicine. I joke that they're not waiting for lipstick from MAC. These people are sick, and you realize what's out there. I don't think that trajectory is going to change. I think people just need to really get empowered and realize that they can make decisions, and that you can create heaven in your own, so to speak, your own life. And health is not only about food. Longevity. It's also about community and purpose. Purpose is very big. Like in Japan, they have the word ikigai, which means purpose. There's all these different factors that lend to our health.
Yeah. Well, that is a fantastic way to end, I think. Folks can find you at, what's your website again?
They can go to simplytransformative.com if they want to learn more about the hemp oil, and honeycolony.com, which is also a magazine and a marketplace. Okay. And they can follow me on Twitter.
And Vanishing of the Bees, where can you find that?
That is on Netflix, Hulu, iTunes, Amazon. Yeah.
So pretty much anywhere you can find that. Well, that's excellent. Thank you very much, Maryam. You had a lot of very cool stuff to talk about. Maybe we can get you on the show again and
would love that.
Have another conversation.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, and thanks for sharing your time. It's not. I mean, if I didn't have folks like you, I'm a small independent, but this technology is fantastic. I mean, the ability for us to have a conversation really across the globe. It wasn't heard of 10 years ago, and it's just another way to get ideas like this out there. So if it wasn't for folks like you giving us your time, then it would be quiet. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Let me know when it's out there and I'll share it.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Good night.
Like us on Facebook.com/WWI podcast and at WWI podcast on Twitter. Drop us a line at waitswhatifpodcast@yahoo.com. Listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, or TuneIn Internet Radio. Enjoyed your listening experience. Now go forth and expand your reality.